Hi guys, welcome back to BTDA's Kural podcast. Today, the hosts, Karnika and Hari, are joined by Niru, who is a fifth-year dental student at King's. Can you share a bit more about yourself?
Yep. So I'm in final year at King's now and really excited to be on this podcast. Thank you guys for reaching out and hopefully it's a good listen.
So we want to talk to you about a load of stuff because you've been up to a lot of stuff in the past year. You had, firstly, you're in final year, which is a big deal. Right, next year you're gonna become a foundation dentist. In this past year, you were the TSOC Pres at King's, and also you went on a really important trip back to Sri Lanka with the Aram Initiative. So we're going to ask you about questions about that. Garnigha, did you have any questions you want to start off with?
Yeah, so I'll start off with, so obviously you're doing dentistry now, but during your last 5 years at dental school, did you ever consider changing careers? And if so, what would you change to? Or what did you consider to change to?
I'll be honest, I don't think I have considered switching. Obviously dentistry it's not an easy degree, right? So you guys obviously know, but there wasn't really a point where I thought I was going to give up and do something else because especially at King's, you sort of start off clinically quite early on. And that's the sort of biggest thing that's kept me going. I really like working with people, working with patients, and that sort of thing. Obviously, the theory of it is hard, it is difficult, but that comes with everything, right? So even if I was to switch to another degree, it would be difficult to start with. But yeah, I guess before dentistry, this is way back in school, I was considering medicine, but I was sort of warned off doing that by my older brother. So, and I'm very glad I chose dentistry as well. The practical aspect of it is sort of really appealing to me and I'm enjoying it a lot.
That's nice to hear. I'm going to ask the classic interview question now. Why dentistry and not medicine?
Yeah. So I sort of touched on it just now. I really like working with people and I think healthcare has always been something I've wanted to get into because you can sort of see the impact you have on people over especially a long period of time. Obviously medicine is the one that sort of shouts out to you as the obvious choice, but I've got an older brother who's in medicine and I sort of saw how he went through it and obviously he did sort of get through it on the other side, but he told me it's definitely not the one. So I did do work experience in both med and dentistry and I just thought dentistry was a bit more sort of hands-on and I like the idea of doing sort of the surgical aspect of dentistry. It's very sort of very skilled in that sense. And as I sort of got through dental school, I found that I was fairly decent at it. So, yeah, that's the sort of main thing.
That's all very valid. I think we all went through the whole medicine versus dentistry. And I guess in the end, we all chose the correct one.
It's actually looking back at 5 years of dental school, right? It's a very long time, half a decade. What moment or like experience do you think really truly shaped the kind of dentist you're becoming? And why do you think that moment shaped you that way?
Yeah, I can think of a couple, but I think they sort of relate to the same sort of main theme. So one was the first time I ever gave local anesthetic to a patient. And the other one was actually quite recently. So it was with one of my case presentation patients who came in. So I'll go through the LA one first. So with giving local anesthetic, you guys might have done it already, but especially as a student, it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. And with patients as well, some of them are very nervous, and you guys will find that out if you haven't already. So they can be very nervous with it. And so the first time I ever gave LA, I was supervised by one of the sort of nicest tutors you can ever get, especially at King's, one of the nicest tutors I've ever had. And so the advice that he gave me really stuck with me. And it's sort of like the main theme of what I picked up over these last 5 years, which is that if you're able to make your patient feel comfortable and if you're able to give them a sort of very safe space with you as their dentist, then they'll basically let you do anything to them in terms of treatment and sort of talking them through what things that you can offer them. So that's something which I found with giving that LA with that first ever patient. So it was a lot of it was just conversation and then using things like topical to sort of calm them down, make sure they're really comfortable. They also helped me feel comfortable knowing that they weren't as anxious and then giving the LA. So I think that was the That's the first sort of moment that would jump out to me. Then the second one was quite recently, like I mentioned, a case presentation patient came in, and it's just a sort of follow-up appointment following a treatment plan which we'd made before. And she's come in and she sat on the chair. I've asked her, the standard questions like, how's your day? How did you get in? And so she's come in, and when she sat down, she's just sort of started crying. And so I've obviously thought, okay, there's probably something wrong. Let me sort of talk to her, work out what's happening. But she ended up saying that she was crying not because she was like worried or anything, or because anything was wrong, but because she was so relieved that she felt that comfortable, because she's had really bad experiences in the past with dentists. And so that to me was like a major sort of like wow moment kind of thing, because I literally never thought that just simple sort of patient interactions can lead to such a big impact. Not even necessarily clinically, but this is just in terms of them feeling comfortable with having treatment done, which is something which is so, so important. And I think that's the sort of biggest thing I've learned over the last 5 years. If you can help your patient feel comfortable, then the rest of it will be so easy to do.
Well, that's quite a powerful story, because you wouldn't think that someone would be that traumatized, and then when they finally get that sense of, wow, everything, all my previous experiences are now behind me, that's like a huge burden off their shoulders. You wouldn't really think of that, especially when you go into dental school. To learn that so early on is really incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And it gives you a lot of responsibility to have that trust that the patients have in you. And yeah, it's a surreal feeling, especially the first time it ever happens.
So how would you go about doing that? Because maybe it's you, right? You're quite a charming person, right? You can like manage to persuade your patients to feel really comfortable around you. So what tips would you have to anyone that wants to help their patients feel really comfortable in the chair?
I think one of the most important things is to be confident yourself, even if you're not necessarily actually confident, to fake it. So I know the first time that you guys would have seen your patients, you wouldn't have been confident, and it's completely natural, right? So having that confidence in yourself and sort of going into a patient consultation with basically just backing yourself will play a massive role in giving your patients trust in you. And that's one thing I found, especially going into final year where you're seeing patients, new patients every day, and you'll be doing different things with them every single day. Um, that's one of the most important things. If you're not able to sort of think on the spot, because I know like speaking to people doesn't come to everyone naturally, then go in with um sort of like question openers, things that you're going to speak to every patient about. So things that I mentioned just now, so like, okay, how was your day? How did you get in? So like, what are you doing after the appointment? Things like that. I'll basically ask every patient, and what you'll find is that once you get them talking, they sometimes don't stop talking, and that can be helpful. Obviously, can also sort of long out the appointment. But once they start talking, you'll notice it. If they sort of keep talking, that's when their confidence builds and they feel more comfortable.
Just out of curiosity, this is like a personal question. You mentioned that your tutor gave you this advice. Who was
Yep.
that tutor?
Dr. Part.
No.
Have you had him before?
No.
If you ever have him, he's the nicest tutor on the planet. And he will spend as much time as you need to like explain stuff. He's one of the tutors you can tell who cares, and he'll put in the time and the effort to sort of teach.
I think for our year now, they've actually put like a lot of effort in with us seeing patients. Like I've seen quite a few patients this year. I mean, it is just PMPR or
Yeah.
CAPC, but
Yeah.
it's still like so different compared to second year when I literally saw one patient and that was it.
Yeah. The jump up so you'll find the jump from third year to fourth year is massive in terms of treatment you can do. But yeah, third year will just be perio for pretty much all of it. You might get like the odd restoration. But saying that, so Dr. Parr actually let me do an onlay in third year because I
Wow.
was with him. So it really depends on your tutor. If your tutor thinks you can do something, then you should be fine.
I mean, I've only really done like PMPR. Some guys in my group have done restorations, but I don't feel like jumping into it straight away, because I'd rather build up the skill of just perio first, get the habit of just good communication with the patient.
PMPR is low key hard, like in the beginning.
Yeah. Once you get used to the correct positioning and like manipulating the patient's head. The rest of it is, it will come.
Like
But you
every
do,
session, I leave with back pain, and I'm just like, I need to sort this out now. 'Cause
yeah,
that's all.
3 years into your career and you're already getting back
that's
pain. It's not
not
a good sign.
not ideal, but it's fine.
I
You'll
find
get
it so
better.
satisfying. I find PMP, like subgingival, using hand scale is so satisfying. Like,
Fair enough.
some people don't like the scraping sound.
Yeah. No, we
They're
definitely
like,
find different things satisfying. Like,
and I'm like, okay, there's a bit of calculus there. Just keep scraping away. It sounds so satisfying. But yeah, I had this one patient who he was like, oh no, I don't need LA.
mm,
I was like, I need to get my requirements. He's like, no, you know what? It's fine. I don't want LA. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
you take the pain. So
Did he handle
now
in
that
bed?
yeah, he was in the chair. He was there like just shuddering a bit, and I was like, "You okay?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was like this Italian guy, so he was like big macho dude,
Mm,
So he was like, "Yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna
yeah.
continue."
He said it, so he has to firm it now.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I could always get my requirement done. It's not my loss, but it was on him. So now that you're actually on the edge of qualifying, what do you think people misunderstand about what it actually takes to become a dentist, like mentally, emotionally, and academically?
So I think one thing is that you never really stop learning. And I know you sort of have that idea when you do your interviews and you're looking into what degree you want to do, but you'll find that even when you speak to some consultants now, they'll be researching or they'll be reading up on papers, and there'll always be new things. That's the same with anything in healthcare. So that could be in terms of, for dentistry, for example, in terms of like materials that we use, different techniques that we can use. So there'll always be new things to learn, and the whole scope of dentistry is always changing. And we sort of see that now especially at King's, where although it's not necessarily the best thing, we're not really taught how to use amalgam. We're moving to composites, but that's because of obviously the phasing out of amalgam in a couple of years. So that's just an example of things changing, especially in like the wide scope of things in the UK. I think another thing that I've learned is that no two things that you do in dentistry will ever be the same. So even if that's PMPR, like you guys have said, or if it's a very simple occlusal restoration, it will never be the same for two patients. So you'll always have to be able to adapt. That's one thing I've learned this year, especially. So you'll see patients who, on a radiograph, it might seem like a really easy filling to do. Then when the patient comes in, they might have things like limited mouth opening, or they might not tolerate rubber dam. So you always have to be able to adapt and improvise sort of on the spot. And that's a skill that you'll build, though. So it's not something that will happen overnight. You'll build that skill with practice and also speaking to tutors. I think in terms of the sort of mental side of things, it can be very, very draining. And I found that out this year, because when you're speaking to patients, and especially every day, obviously right now I'm only seeing probably about 4 patients a day at the most. But even with those 4 patients, you as the dentist have to be at 100% the whole time, because the patients are putting their trust in you. So you have to be fully on it the entire time. And that can be really draining, especially when it could be something like 4 consultations where you have to explain procedures to patients, and patients might not always be the most understanding. So you have to be really thorough with the way you explain things. You have to be clear. And I found that this year especially has been really tiring. So when I come back from clinic, so it's 4 out of 5 days in the week, it is very, very tiring, and I'll get home tired. And this is the first time I've really experienced that over the last 5 years. It is helpful that we haven't had as many lectures to do this year, but I've found that I'm still probably just as tired, even though I've got basically nothing to do in the evenings. Yeah, and the last thing is, you have to sort of really want to do dentistry. I don't think it's a degree where you can sort of, I don't know, just sort of like firm it and say it's 6 years or 5 years plus a training year of like hard work and then it's smooth sailing. I don't think it will ever really be like that. If you don't really want it, then it's going to be so difficult for you. And yeah, this year's really sort of put that to the test for me, but I'm still going to stick through. So yeah, that's the plan.
So you've mentioned that you'll get quite tired after clinics. So do you like push through? Do you do anything that might like help, or do you kind of just like wallow in the tiredness and just,
So I think this year I've tried to keep myself busy. So even though I am tired of the clinics, I'm pretty much always doing something in the evenings. So whether that be something like football or going out with friends, just catching up with people, because I also realize that this is my last year at uni. So you have to really make the most of it. And, all your sort of like older cousins and friends will say you'll miss uni once you graduate and once you're working. And I sort of come to that realization now that I have to make use of all my time. So even though I am tired, I am able to sort of get the rest in that I need for the next day. So that's not really an issue. It's more that I think some of the things that I do, so like sports, gym, even music now, for example, they're all things that do help sort of relieve stress, and they're things that I enjoy. So it's not necessarily something that will make me more tired, at least mentally.
yeah, it is important to like keep up with your hobbies even when you're tired. Because at the end of the day, like you said, it is your last year in uni. I've heard so many people older than me like go on about how you need to make the most of your uni experience because you genuinely are never going to get that time back. You have quite a lot of free time, even though it seems like a lot, like doing 9 to 5s, like most days of the week. At the end of the day, like you do have more free time than if you were to work a full-time job.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing which we sort of like me and my sort of friend group sort of keep coming back to this year is that out of the 180 of us in our year, or roughly 180, we're basically going to see probably about 10 of us, 10 if that, over the next couple years. So we're not going to see everyone together like this basically ever again, apart from maybe graduation. So we really do have to make the most of it and go out, spend time with each other as much as we can.
I just have two things to say about. Firstly, you guys have 180 people in your year.
I think it's 180. It might be
That's
160.
ridiculous. We have about
Yeah, I think
70.
we have like 106.
We literally have 70 in our year.
That's
And also the second thing was, so you obviously said that, you need like a good break from all this to like de-stress, just think about something else other than dentistry.
Mm.
To do all of this, to handle all of this, you can't just do it on your ones, right? So you said you have like a good friend group. So who would you say your support system is? Like the main characters in your life that support you through your dental school journey?
So I think I've got a couple, and they're sort of from like different areas of my life. So one would be family. So my older brother, for example, he's not someone who I've always been the closest with, but I think especially during uni time and like as I've grown up, gotten much closer. He's always like very reliable. It's also sometimes my sort of personal bank account if I really need funds. But Harry, you'd know about that.
Yeah, I'm the older brother, so
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he's one of the people who's always been there my whole life, right? So someone I can rely on. He'll give me good advice as well, especially when it comes to exams, like how to revise. Then obviously I've got my friends at uni, and so they're all in the same boat as me. They're having the same experience as me. So if I need to sort of speak to them about maybe things that they've done which I haven't done, or vice versa, we can always speak. Then I've got my friends outside uni. So a couple of my mates are a little bit older than me. So I think 2 or 3 years older. And like I'd say my closest mates. Not all of them are involved in healthcare as well, which I think that's really nice to have. Just so I can talk to him about something, and he might not even understand it, but he'd still be there to listen, kind of thing. And then more recently, this year, some of the friends I sort of made on the trip that I went to in Sri Lanka, which I think I'll get onto later on. But some of those guys have been amazing to talk to. Again, like wide age range, but yeah, I think they're sort of really important people in my life right now. And then obviously parents, I haven't mentioned it, but I don't think I really need to mention it. They've always been supportive.
been there since day dot, right?
Exactly.
Since day one.
Exactly. Yeah. But also if I wasn't studying, I'd be cooked. So yeah, I have to respect them.
Okay. So I wanted to move on to your experience as the TSOC pres. So that was between 2024, 2025, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Your term.
that's right.
Leadership, like that obviously comes with like both the pride of being the president, but also the pressure. So what do you think the hardest moment was that you faced as a president, and how did it change the way you see responsibility and teamwork?
So I think if I was to pick a specific moment, it would be dealing with Kings of Ghana on the day. So on show day, it was incredibly stressful. And in terms of dealing with that, I think planning was the biggest thing for us. We planned for so many hours on so many days, going through like loads of different spreadsheets and making sure timings were up to scratch. Everything was down to the T. And on our cog day, we had a few sort of problems on the day, and it was again very stressful to deal with because everything is on a time crunch. You know, you've got something like 200 dancers who are all competing basically for the biggest trophy in the UK in terms of in the dance scene. So you've got pressure from them. You've also got pressure from the audience all there to support them. And it's basically two people, so myself and my co-president and committee of 20 who have to run the whole thing. So it was a lot of pressure. But I think trusting my committee was one of the biggest things I learned, especially in terms of like leadership and bringing that into dentistry. You have to trust the people around you. You've got a wide team, especially as dentists. It's not just your dentist and your nurse. You've got so many other people in the team, like your receptionist, your lab technician. Obviously, I haven't experienced all of that yet because I'm still at uni, but I'm sure next year I will sort of see the wider scope of things. But yeah, sort of coming back to this year, we've been given our own nurses this year at uni, and I found that trusting them and being nice to them is one of the best things you can do, because having a good nurse will change your life. It will make your life so much easier. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, or the biggest challenge I faced last year or when I was president.
So you must have been like told about the pressure of that show day, right? So what made you think I've got this? Right, when you signed up to the presidency, when you put your
Yeah.
name down on the ballot.
So I was there on show day the year before. So I was part of the committee the year before, and I saw mostly how things were run, and I sort of had like a general idea of it. I think I put myself down because, sort of like you said, I thought it was a challenge. Definitely was a challenge. It wasn't going to be easy. I think King's is probably one of the biggest TSOCs in the UK. I think it's like King's, Imperial, maybe Knots as well. But it was never going to be easy. But it's just one of those things where you have to back yourself. If you back yourself and you are confident, like with pretty much everything, you are able to achieve what you want to achieve. And I think I've become a person who, once I have a goal in mind, I won't stop at anything to achieve it. So, but obviously that, along with the support system I had in terms of my committee and my co-pres and even ex-presidents, everyone was there to help me. So it wasn't an impossible task. It was just I had to be very organized with time. I had to be organized with when I do specific things, and sort of be very clear in my own schedule so that I could achieve what I wanted to achieve.
Do you ever struggle with balancing dentistry and being a pres?
I'd say I definitely did. So I did presidency in fourth year. So at King's, I don't know if it's going to change, but fourth year for us was probably the most academically challenging year because of the number of lectures you do and the modules that you take. So I think up until Kings of Ghana, which is in December, I basically done very, very little uni work. So I've done all the practical elements of it. But in terms of lectures and tutorials, that sort of thing, I basically skipped everything. So it did take a sort of massive hit on my academic side. But after COG was done, then I was able to sort of catch up on it. And I trusted myself enough that I'd be able to catch up on it before exams were done. So it was difficult to balance, but I'm very glad that I did it. The experience of it was amazing, and I met amazing people through it. I was able to get contacts from amazing people who then sort of helped me to go on and do bigger and better things.
If you're enjoying this episode right now and you find it really helpful, it would mean the world to us if you could just follow or subscribe wherever you're listening and share it with someone that you think that this would be really, really helpful for. That way we can bring on more and more guests and share more of our stories.
What do you think the best part is of being part of a Tamil society?
That's a tough question. So obviously with any sort of society, you have the social aspect of it, you know, meeting new people, and like all that sort of, that whole sort of jazz. But I think with Tamil society, as a whole, it is nice to meet people who might not be very sort of similar to you, or might be doing loads of different courses, especially across the country. You'll meet people from all over the UK who are all sort of connected by that one thing, which they are Tamil. So I think that's really cool. What else? I'm not really selling this well here, but
Just if you're Tamil, just join.
yeah, if you're
Is that
Tamil,
a
just
big selling
join.
point?
I think especially in London, everyone is very well connected, and joining TSOC, if that's something that you want to get involved with, it really helps. You'll end up knowing people from every uni in London, and it'll be people who are maybe more bait than others. So again, if that's something that you want to get involved with, I think TSOC, it's sort of coming back now, coming more into the scene now in terms of culture. And I think that's really important, that you don't sort of forget your culture and the heritage and what it actually means to be Tamil, rather than it just being a language, and actually going out and celebrating all the different things that Tamil people celebrate. Yeah.
How did your time, so being part of the committee, being a member, and being like the president of the Tamil Society, reshape your connection and feeling towards the Tamil culture and its community?
So I think it definitely brought me closer to the culture. I'm not someone who, so okay, I went to Tamil school up until about year 5. This is a little history lesson, but after then I left. I can speak a little bit of Tamil. I'm not going to gas myself and say I speak perfect Tamil. I definitely do not. It's very broken. I can just about read Tamil still, most letters. Can't write anymore. But yeah, so I do have that sort of aspect in terms of like context behind myself. But going into TSOC was a big thing for me, because it sort of put me in a position where I had to sort of take responsibility and do more to learn about my own culture. So even just with things like working with the charity that we chose, which actually ended up being the Aram Initiative, that brought me closer to home in terms of speaking to people in Sri Lanka, speaking to people who are trying to make change. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot the second part of the question. You're going to have to remind me. But
How do you think that has reshaped your connection to the culture?
I think what it's done is it's sort of cemented something in that I will always be connected quite deeply to Tamil culture and being involved in the Tamil scene. Maybe not in the sense that I'm president or any of that, but at least in the sense of helping out where I can. So that wasn't something which I initially sort of thought of at all before joining the committee and before becoming president. And I think going through that process of joining TSOC and then essentially getting to the top of it allowed me to venture out into other things which really interested me, like charity and helping. And I think that's going to be something which is always going to stick with me going forward. And something that I'm sort of part of a team working on for the Aram Initiative going forward as well. So I think that's definitely something for the future, which I wouldn't have had if I hadn't gone through those steps.
You keep bringing up this Aram Initiative. The thing is, many people don't actually know about that Aram Initiative. So this year you actually went to Sri Lanka with the initiative. Could you tell us more about the trip and the ideology, the purpose behind the initiative?
Yeah, so the Aram Initiative is basically a youth-led organization which aims at developing the homeland, so Sri Lanka, through the use of the diaspora, which is basically us and anyone who's Tamil outside of Sri Lanka. So by using us and the resources that we have. And so the main mission they have is sustainable development through different forms. And I think the 5 sectors which we have at the moment are economic development, social development, community development, healthcare development, I think special needs, so special needs development. And so there's the sort of main message that Aram are trying to promote is sustainable development. So we don't want to be seen as essentially a charity where we go and just give money and short-term solutions to bigger issues. We want to be able to sort of go there and sort of diagnose the root cause of problems and treat those rather than just the symptoms. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's more like a long-term, high-impact solution.
Exactly. Sorry. That's why we want to sort of go away from this idea that we're a charity and go towards this image that we're an organization promoting development. So that's one of the biggest things which I think is really, really important to sort of make it clear to sort of anyone listening. We're trying to avoid giving money and donations, and we're trying to make actual long-lasting change. And one thing I want to mention is that, so this trip is just a very small part of what Aram actually do. Obviously, it's quite easy to see that it's the sort of, it's quite a tangible part of what we do as an organization. But the work behind the scenes is what has allowed the organization to grow and thrive. And so I think that is one of the sort of biggest things I wanted to highlight by coming on here and speaking about it.
Do you have any examples of what the Aram Initiative have done so far in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so just from the top of my head, because I was mainly involved in healthcare, but from the top of my head, so one of the schemes which we're running is essentially an online education scheme. So I think what we've done in Sri Lanka there is at a girls' home called, I think, Sorrow the Girls, we've installed projectors, and those projectors allow us from here to teach lessons to the kids there. And I think that's been running over since before I went on the trip. So it's been running for at least probably a couple months. But yeah, like I said, I'm not too sort of aware of every project that has been done. Healthcare wise, I can speak about what we did on the trip in terms of what we tangibly did. But again, with something like healthcare, it's much more difficult to create sort of systemic change compared to something like education where you're teaching. Yeah, a lot of it is sort of very long-term goals, which we're sort of slowly building towards achieving. So it's not going to be something that happens over just 1 year. This will be something that happens over maybe the next 10, 15, 20 years.
So in terms of healthcare, so when you went there, what sort of challenge did you see, like trying to set it up? Because the BTDA, from what I've heard from president and other like high committee members, they've said that it's very difficult to try and do actual dental work. It's more of just OHI, trying to get the clearances for the more intense, dentistry is a lot more difficult. How did you get around that?
So like you mentioned, like the whole prevention aspect of it is quite straightforward. Essentially what you're doing is teaching, right? So it's just teaching oral hygiene instructions, how to brush, what things to eat, what to avoid. But in terms of the actual clinical side, the way we were able to sort of work around it was by working through organizations which already existed there. Also hospitals which were there as well. So on some of these medical camps, we were accompanied by doctors who are obviously licensed and registered there, were able to work, who were able to sort of supervise us and allow us to essentially do the examinations. So whilst I was there, I wasn't actually able to do any specific dental treatment. So a lot of it was just screening and then making referrals. So that's one of the things which I did on one of the healthcare camps where I was, which I was stationed at. So I think over about 4.5 hours, I saw something like 80 patients just back to back, all just doing examinations, oral cancer screenings, and then making referrals to the hospital if we thought they needed referrals. So in terms of us doing actual dental work, I think it will be difficult. It'll be difficult regardless, even if I was a qualified dentist here, to then go and get the licensing to do it there. But I think the best or the easiest way that we found is by working through organizations which already existed there, who are able to sort of help us out and to come together to sort of allow us to make a bigger change.
You mentioned that your Tamil is not the best. How did you find communicating with the patients, especially if you had 80 back to back? That must have been tiring.
Yeah, so I mentioned it before, like even just speaking to patients here is draining. Doing that there was unbelievable. It was, my Tamil is not the greatest. So when I speak Tamil, I have to sort of actively think about what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it was really difficult. And especially when you're explaining some like quite complex things. So some of the referrals were for things which I thought could be sort of quite concerning. And then some of them would be something simple like sensitivity. So I'd have to definitely adapt to what I was saying. And I did have someone who was essentially like a nurse with me, just another volunteer, who was much better at Tamil than me, thankfully. So she did help a lot with the translations. But it was definitely very, very difficult. In terms of the sort of prevention side of it, when we went to schools and sort of homes, when we went to sort of teach people about brushing, there were some times where it'd just be me doing it. And in those times, it was definitely just one of those things where I knew my Tamil wasn't great, but I'd have to just give it my 100%. It's like some of the kids, I knew they were laughing at me because of the way I was saying things or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to sort of help, even if it doesn't come across with the best Tamil. Hopefully, like the posters and stuff that we give them to keep sort of have that positive impact that we're after. So yeah, it was definitely a sort of mixed experience, but I think towards the end of the trip, I was much more confident, like with anyone else, because you end up having to speak Tamil there to pretty much everyone. So definitely an experience. So yeah.
So whilst you were there, you said you saw 80 patients in one sitting, right? So seeing all those patients, many without access to even like the basic dental care or without the dental education that we have, what perspective did that give you on the privilege we have here in the UK and the responsibility we have as dental professionals?
Yeah, so that's one thing which, going into the trip, I sort of had an idea that a lot of the people that we see there might have never seen a dentist before. They might never have had any treatment done before. And that the sort of main thing is that we here are lucky. That's the sort of idea I had before going on the trip. Coming back from the trip, it just solidifies that so much more, in that we are unbelievably privileged here to have the resources and the systems in place, especially healthcare wise. I can speak about everything else, but I'll focus on just on healthcare. We are so lucky to have what we have, even though we have the issues like, oh, it might be difficult to find a dentist or there's waiting times for X, Y, and Z. Over there, some of the people I've seen, they might be in their 60s, 70s, and they've never been to a dentist. And they would have so many problems, which have caused them pain, and it's massively impacted their quality of life, which they just haven't been able to sort of deal with and get treated. So, yeah, I sort of knew that before the trip, it would be a massive change coming back. And I think my perspective on, I think just life as a whole has massively changed since the trip. It was definitely an eye-opening experience, seeing firsthand what you think you already know, but just seeing it with your own eyes and speaking to the people there just makes it so much more real. And that's why I've sort of continued working with Aram in hopefully helping out in years to come. There's definitely not something which I just want to leave behind with just this trip and then go and live my own life. Definitely something which I want to work on over the next for the foreseeable future, at least.
Was there a specific child or like a moment during that trip that is going to stick with you for the rest of your life? Like something that has changed how you view dentistry or even your own life in general?
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm sort of thinking of or going back to would be on one of our first days of the trip. So we went to one of the tea estates. I think it was up in Niru, which is essentially like one of the poorest areas which we visited over the trip. And we ran a bunch of workshops there. And one of them was a sort of Dragon's Den workshop where we basically give all these groups of children, I say children, they're basically my age. They were like between 18 and 21, 22. We basically give them a sort of budget and we ask them to come up with an idea of a product to go and design and then sell to essentially us as investors. Where was I going with this? What I helped with was I went with some of these kids to the local market to pick up some of the items which they wanted to buy. And the sort of thing that sort of stuck out to me, I think the most on this trip in terms of this specific encounter was that these kids, even though they basically had like next to nothing in comparison to us, which even to say it just feels like wrong because they're so smart, they have so much potential, but it's just they were born in the wrong place. We were more lucky than them. But like these kids were there offering to buy me food, to buy me drinks like on the way back from the market, or even to just give me their jacket because it started raining. Just things like that, which I don't know, it's crazy to see that kids who basically have next to nothing in comparison to us are still so compassionate. And yeah, it's really just sort of highlighted that kindness can get you so far. I think that's something which I'll take on, and I'll never forget that.
Over here, it feels like everyone's at each other's necks all the time. Whilst when we have everything, right? Compared to them. So it does seem incredible to hear of how compassionate they are when they don't have anything.
Mm.
Whereas you see here, especially in the online world, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I think that's why people tend to be less compassionate is because they don't realize how much like the privilege that they have. It's like it's only when you go and see and like compare your life or your quality of life to like people and kids, especially in third world countries, that's when you realize how lucky you are and like how you generally should be grateful for everything.
Yeah, I agree. And I think here it's not that people aren't compassionate, but I think people can do so much more. It's that we have the potential to help out so many people. Like we have essentially unlimited resources now with the internet, with just like everything that we have access to. We have no excuse to go out and help people where we can. Yeah, that's again one of the sort of main reasons why I'm continuing with this initiative, because I think it's so impactful and yeah.
So actually, like, how do you think these experiences that you've seen back home in Sri Lanka can redefine what it means to be a successful dentist beyond just clinical skill or the status of your career?
Tough question. So I think the experiences I had there definitely showed me the importance of communication. And I sort of touched on this earlier, but being able to communicate effectively and be kind, compassionate, all things which will be like sort of paramount to you being successful as a dentist. Because if you can treat the patient before they even come in terms of make sure they're comfortable, then you're already more than halfway there. I think it's less so focused on the clinical outcome and more to do with patient experience. Obviously, clinical outcome is important and you can't drop the standards of that. But I think it's just as important that your patient has a good experience and can say that they essentially enjoyed the experience rather than they just went to the dentist, they got something done. I think that is something which sort of sticks out to me.
It seems like there's like all your experiences with the Aram Initiative and Sri Lanka have been so inspiring. For the listeners who are listening, what do you think is the best first step to take to get involved with like Aram in the sector?
I think the first step is to just reach out. There's loads of people who've been on the trip and there's loads of people who have been involved with the organization. So any one of us will be happy to speak to you. We'll be happy to sort of give you our insights, our experiences, and sort of share that with you guys. We're not going to sort of refuse that because we as an organization can only do better if we grow and more people join and sort of join the movement, which is that we want to create long-lasting change, and we need to start that now if we want it to be impactful. I know Aram are planning to do lots of sort of workshops throughout the year. We've already contacted loads of the Tamil SOCs over the UK, so I think there's a couple which we're working quite closely with this year, which will then help sort of put out workshops and sort of information, not lectures, but information workshops where you'll be able to know how you can get involved, even if that's something really small, like doing a bake sale and you raise something like even £20. It's going to make a massive difference over a long period of time. So yeah, reach out to the page. The Instagram page has lots of information. Aram also has a website where they outline all their projects, how to contact them. Yeah, I'd say just reach out, speak to anyone who has been involved, anyone who's got a link, because I guarantee you'll know someone, or you'll know of someone who's been on the trip or part of the organization who will be able to help you out.
So in terms of like dental professionals, dental students, how can we get involved? Is there like because I know only 2 of you went on the trip this year, right? Is there any plans of expanding that number for the next year?
So I can't speak on behalf of the actual like organization in terms of numbers of people, etc. But this year it was a struggle with only 2 dentists. So the other dentist I went with, she's actually qualified, so she was a bit more confident in that sense. So when I went at the end of 4th year, so I was still sort of getting to grips with the whole seeing loads of patients in a day kind of thing. Yeah, it would be amazing to see more applications. That's one thing I can say for sure. Just in general with healthcare as well. So we had it was only 2 ophthalmologists, which and they really sort of drew the short straw in terms of seeing patients in the course of a day, where with dentists you can do a thorough examination, and even if it's just a sort of checkup over probably about 5 minutes, you should be able to sort of get through with that. Obviously we didn't have x-rays taken there. Just through sort of visual inspection you'll be able to do that, whereas with Optom you're doing examinations and it can last up to like 15-20 minutes. When we've only got 2 people there and say 100 people waiting in a queue, it's really, really difficult. Yeah, I'd say with dentists and dental students, to get involved, again, reach out, but definitely apply. Definitely apply if it's something you want to do now. Even if you don't get in, apply in the future, because it will be something which will continue to happen. It's not going to be something which is just happening for the next year or 2 and then disappear. It's not going to be something like that. So it's already happened for 3 years and it's only been growing in numbers. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Then also in terms of the actual prevention side of things, if anyone wants to get involved with creating some of the leaflets that we use or the posters or the education side of things, then definitely reach out to us. We'd appreciate any help that we can get. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's a great cause, and I like that long-term vision compared to just you see other charities, they're there for a year, you might not hear from them again. This is like a long-term project, so that's really, really great to see. So I thought we could end this interview episode with like a question, because for the past 2 episodes I've been asking, right, that one question: if your life was a Tamil film, what would it be? All right. And I asked you the question, and you said, I don't watch Tamil films. So
Yeah,
I had to
you know
change
I
it up a
didn't
bit.
watch Tamil films.
Right. Maybe he has 1 or 2. But I was thinking, okay, so if you could only eat one Tamil food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One Tamil food for the rest of my life. I'm trying not to say like a bait answer.
Can't say kotta roti, come on.
Yeah, I can't say kotta roti. Not again.
That's too bait.
Okay, I'd say fish cutlet.
Oh, that's a bit of a wild
fair.
card.
That's fair.
It's on.
It's so underrated.
Yeah, I haven't had that in ages, you know. Making me
You
hungry
should go
now.
grab one. It's banging.
Yeah. So thank you for coming onto the podcast, Dana. Where can we find you or the Aram Initiative on Instagram? Do you have like a handle?
Yeah. So if you ever do want to reach out, I'm always happy to talk. So my socials, I think they're all the same. So at niru.vimal. And then the Aram Initiative's Instagram page is aram.initiative. If you message on there, then any one of us will be very happy to sort of speak to you if you'd like to.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.